Dang, dude. Talk about wieners. Tell you what, I'm never gonna look at the quarter-pound coney dog from Sonic the same again. Oh, Samson. There's definitely some peepees in here, but I'll tell you what, I thought this was a great movie. I think I liked it as much as the last one. Since this one's like a direct sequel to the last one, this movie just like picks up like right where it left off pretty much. Peepees? I just saw this movie and it was an afternoon showing and it was literally just me, my brother, and my mother. And then there was one other dude in the back and he was respectful. He didn't talk, he didn't fart, he didn't pick his nose. So it was a drama-free theater experience. We got the best seats right in the middle and we saw it with the Dolby Atmos. This movie was pretty crazy, man. Reminds me when I used to be in an insane asylum. In an insane asylum. So I loved the first one, 28 years later. You done? Yeah, so I think this is a fantastic movie. Real great sequel or continuation of the story from the first one. I don't know, I think this one was a box office bomb, which kind of sucks. I hope they still do the third one though. But it does look like this one's getting better reviews than the last movie, which is kind of interesting because I think I did love this one. Not as much as my George Lucas baby, but close. Because they really introduced this new character, Jimmy Crystal or something. Apparently that he's supposed to be based off, he's like a real life cult leader, Jimmy Crystal. And this character is based off of him. It's some kind of British thing. I don't know. I don't keep up with the Britons. They're doing some like Bridgerton stuff over there, I think. So they got this new character, right? And he's almost like this story for this movie kind of felt more focused on that character and Ralph Fiennes, his character, and Samson, the big zombie dude who changed the way I think about hot dogs now. I feel like this story is more focused on those three. And the main character from the first one is in this one, obviously, and it looks like he's part of this cult thing. He's all wrapped up in it. And he is definitely a main character, but I almost feel like the story was almost more focused, I think, on the Jimmy Crystal guy and Ralph Fiennes' character or whatever. But yet again, that kid's a good actor. Alfie Williams. He's got the stuff, man. He's British and he knows it, man. Obviously, Ralph Fiennes is like amazing. He's always like, he's just like, you know what I'm saying? He might even be better than that guy who played Citizen Kane. What's his name? George Washington or something? Then you got that Samson, the Alpha. That whole storyline going on there, I thought was fantastic. And then you got the Jack O'Connell, I think is his name. He plays the Jimmy Seville, Crystal, whatever. I don't know how, but the whole movie, I didn't even recognize him for some reason. But I remember thinking like, yo, this guy's real good. But then my brother told me that that's actually the same actor from Sinners. He was the bad guy in Sinners. And I was like, dang, dog. Because he was great in Sinners also. Fantastic. And this one, just as good. This movie was directed by Nia DaCosta. Still written by Alex Garland. He's gonna write the third one. And then Danny Boyle would come back for the third one. So my video about the first 28 years later, I was talking about how I didn't really know who this director was, and I haven't seen anything she's made. And apparently she did that Marvels movie, The Marvels, which was like, I think got pretty mixed reviews. So I still had some trust that it was gonna turn out good because it was still gonna be Alex Garland writing the story. And thankfully, it turned out better than what I was hoping. You know, I think the reason too why I might like the last one more than this one is because I think it's just Danny Boyle has this idiosyncratic style He's just not afraid to do like different stuff with his films, down to like the way they film it, the editing style he chooses, and the camera work, all that stuff. Music, everything. Like that last movie, I remember it was just like, it had this hectic feeling with these quick edits, and it had this visceral energy around the whole movie, and like just like it would cut, you know, from one shot to that like military footage with like that really old recording that they used in that first trailer for that movie. The way they portrayed the infected also, they would show like he would film it with like that infrared camera or something. The entire screen would just be red, and you would see like just the infected doing stuff, being naked and everything. Peepees? And it's just like, it was always keeping you on your toes, like what's gonna happen next? Like what's this next shot gonna be? And I just love that movie. This one still had that style, you know, and it felt like a good continuation from the filmmaking of the first one. It's still like, you know, really visceral in the way they edited and did the sound design, and like a lot of the filmmaking too. And they really created like this visceral and brutal atmosphere. And like some of the violence in here was making me kind of fainty. Like I was looking at the blood, and I'm like, oh. It's like when I'm seeing like blood pouring out sometimes, I just get a little sleepy. Yeah, this one I thought had great directing. I'm thinking that Marvel's movie was probably like, you know, a fluke or something. Great directing, great violence, great acting, great music. Oh, the music. Hildur Gutenschlagen. I don't know what her name is. I think she did the music for the Joker movie, and now I'm forgetting every single thing. But I know her because I think she did some like, we call it collaborations with Johan Johansson. I think that's how you say his name. And he was like one of my favorite composers. He was working a lot with Denis Villeneuve with like Sicario, Prisoners. He was going to do the Blade Runner movie, but he dropped out of that one. And he did the music for Arrival. He did the music for Mandy with Nicolas Cage. And then he died. That guy was awesome. But yeah, I know her because she used to do like, I think, collaborations or something with that composer. And that explains why the music was so good in this one too. She didn't compose the first movie, right? But yeah, great music, atmosphere, great all around, great wieners, great peepees, great everything. Wieners! You know, they should have had a part where they had Paul Hollywood show up from the Great British Wink Off. And he goes up to like that Samson, the infected guy. Is that an alligator? And then he puts Paul Hollywood into the cake mix and bakes him into a cake. I think this movie was more violent than the last one, but I'd have to see the last one again. But I'm pretty sure this one was like way up there in 5 stars out of 5 stars violence. Now I think I'm gonna talk about spoilers. One of the things I didn't expect was how big of a role Samson was going to play into the story. You know, in the first movie, they're talking about and showing this alpha infected and that they're smarter than normal infected and just like unkillable almost. But in this one, they really take that, they really explore that further with the Ralph Fiennes guy just kind of like becoming friends with Samson, where he like sedates him, you know. Samson's like in this drugged up state where he looks like he's peaceful. He's at peace, right? And then, you know, over the course of the movie, Ralph Fiennes starts trusting Samson more, to the point where when he has Samson sedated, he sedates himself, and he wakes up the next day, right, and Samson's gone, which means that now he knows that there's something much greater to Samson because he didn't kill him. And then that part too, when it was just like, it seemed like Ralph Fiennes was about to give him like a lethal dose of something to put him out of his misery pretty much. Then right before he did it, Samson was just like, moon. And then, you know, it kind of goes into pretty much, I guess, Ralph Fiennes' character creating a cure for the infected. And he used it on Samson, and then, you know, there's that whole sequence where he's just walking around, and there's images of like him being in a train or something. He's looking at the foliage. Then he ends up at the same train from the last movie, and he goes there, he sits down, and then you start seeing like his memories when he was like a kid or something, when the infection first started. The ticket person comes by to him and asks for his ticket, but then when you see Samson again, he's like an adult, and then he's just looking at the girl, and then all of a sudden everybody in the train's like standing up and looking at him, and it's got like this creepiness to it. And then it just cuts to the current Samson, the infected Samson, and then he's like, oh, I don't have a ticket. And it was just like the way he said it was so like normal and subtle and quiet. Like another movie, they would have, had him say something like grand and like yell it out or something. I'm thinking of that scene from Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the first time that Caesar talks. Like that was a cool moment for that movie, but they didn't do that here, where it was just like he just said a normal sentence and it was just like quiet. It almost felt like it hit more because of that. And then, when he looks up, he's surrounded by infected and they start attacking him. And it's just like this crazy like fight scene. He's like literally ripping them apart, destroying them. There's all this screaming. The sound design was on point. It was just crazy. And then he comes out, he's just completely naked again, drenched in blood. It was crazy. So then at the end, right, it seems like he's cured and he has like a clear mind and he can talk now. That whole entire storyline of Ralph Fiennes' character kind of like befriending the infected, dancing with him, and getting to a point where he does find a cure and then he starts talking. That whole storyline sounds like it'd be really easy to make that real corny, cheesy, and just like unbelievable. But the way they did it here, and I think it's because a lot of the writing and especially the directing, it didn't feel like cheesy or corny. It felt like genuine. It was just like a really fascinating aspect of the film. And then you got the Jimmy Crystal guy. He was just a real great character, I think. He's one of those evil characters that is actually evil. A lot of times when there's villains or like the bad guy in movies, a lot of movies will try to make them complex and like, these characters don't think they're the bad guys, right? And they're like misunderstood almost. And that's not a bad thing at all. Like, I think stories should be doing stuff like that. But it's just like, this is one of those instances where this character, he's just evil. He says evil things, tortures people, rips off their skin. This guy's just like pure evil. But then there's like that underlying sense that he could be misunderstood, where he's talking to Ralph Fiennes' character. Because there's that part where one of the cult members, this girl, she was real great too, says she finds Saint Nick or whatever, which is supposed to be Satan, and she was looking at Ralph Fiennes from a distance. And when she took the Jimmy's character to there to show him, obviously you could tell that he's never seen that character before, Ralph Fiennes. And this whole time he's claiming that he's Satan's son. There's like this conundrum he's in where he says, yes, that is Satan. He explains that only he can go down and talk to him or something. So he talks to Ralph Fiennes, that whole character conversation between them. And you get to hear a lot about what Jimmy was like and the way he thinks from that conversation. And it's like, it makes him more complex, but at the same time doesn't take away that he's just like pure evil. Because, he was like a kid and he was attached to that Teletubby show, and he grew up, like with the memories of being a kid with no adults like raising him, or that's what it seemed like, that he wasn't raised by any adults, and he's just like this person who grew up without any guidance and never had his ideas challenged or his memories as a kid challenged. When he was talking about when the infection first started, and like how his dad was leading the zombies or the infected, and he, in his mind, because he came from a religious household, he was thinking, his dad was Satan and he was leading his army of demons or whatever. So he's always thought he's been the son of Satan. And it's just like this real interesting, complex character. And you know, he's saying this stuff and you're almost kind of like really interested in what he's saying on an empathetic level. Almost. But then like literally right after he says that, he's like, I'm gonna rip out your intestines and stuff them down your throat until you can't breathe, or something like that. You know, the story telling you that this guy's complicated, but he's evil now, and he's like long gone, and you can't really save him. And that whole thing with the Samson being cured element, I thought that was gonna come into play at the end when things got heated up, when the Jimmy guy was like, you know, starting to get crazy and attacking the Ralph Fiennes character. I was thinking that Samson was gonna come in and start ripping them apart or something, the cultists, since he was like cured at that point. I like the way they did it here better than that idea. And then of course it ends with Cillian Murphy, but I don't think it was really a secret that he was gonna be in this one, because they straight up said that he was gonna have a part in the second movie before they even came out with the first one. And I'm assuming he would be playing a huge part in the third movie. And you know, the way it ended, I'm really interested to see where it goes, because are they gonna bring back Aaron Taylor Johnson? Are they gonna explore like the baby that from the first one that was born from an infected? Like, I want to see if they do stuff with that, if it's gonna come back and play or what. I really want to see like how Danny Boyle would do the third movie, to have him back. Even though this one had great directing and I wasn't disappointed at all. But I'd like to see Danny Boyle back. You know, I think I'm gonna get a coney dog. Waiters!